Oh, hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Pia. How are you?
Doing well.
Hello,
Okay,
everybody.
Joyce, I'm going to make you a co-host so that you can let people in case I don't see them.
Sure.
Thank you. How is studying going?
Fun.
Fun. I love that. Okay. You folks should start telling me any day now that you're getting your watermark books. So let me know whenever those come in so that I can track down things that don't show up. Let me show you the silly picture I have on my save screen here because it's just so cute. I walk in the room and it scares me. It's like, what wasn't what I expected. Okay, I've got
Super
watermark.
cute.
Okay, watermark. Okay, we are starting chapter 3. This is the first knowledge area. I think I've said this to y'all. I'm gonna say things repeatedly to you just to be sure that you get it. Knowledge area 1 is chapter 3. You're going to see KA1 in some of the stuff that you find online. So if you see KA1, it's really talking about chapter 3, okay? All right. So I'm going to also ask you to please, in the chat, put in your name so that I can just have a record of who attended, because otherwise I'm going back and watching you to say, oh yeah, they're here, and I've got your actual name. So we're going to start questions for chapter 3. And as we do this, I'm going to ask you to do something. Grab your BABOK and have a way to, put in post-it notes or something to show you where you're needing to study. Yes, thank you, Bob. Because otherwise we get to the end of these and you go, I did pretty good. And you don't remember where it was that you needed to, it's like I need to focus on this one paragraph. So have a way to mark in your BABOK, I need to study this because I wasn't sure about it or I got it wrong. That's the whole reason we're doing this. This is our personal gap analysis of saying, this is where I want to be, is I want to be able to confidently know it all. And we are in the, I'm not quite sure, I'm not there yet. So I want you to have a way to mark it. Otherwise, we've wasted time and I don't want you to waste any time. Okay, it looks like I've got just about everybody here. Everyone has your BABOK? Yes? All right, very good. Okay, I'm going to read the question. We're going to talk about which task in the knowledge area it is. In fact, let me open up my, this is what I want to open up right here. List 1. I'm going to drop this over here on the side. Since this is new to us, I don't expect you to have memorized it all yet. Check performance, and I don't need this right now. Okay, I want you to be able to see these. And as I read the question, I'm going to ask you, what task are we on? And then we're going to go through the answers and we're going to eliminate anything that we can eliminate. And then we're going to talk about which one is the right answer according to the BABOK. So I'm going to get this arranged. I'm sorry. The monkeys are helping. That's the problem. Okay. First question. Giorgio wants to interact with a group of stakeholders to gain more information about them. What would you advise him to do? So his goal is to interact with the stakeholders to gain more information. So which task is he in?
He's in the planned stakeholder engagement.
He wants to gather information about his stakeholders. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the options for answers are develop a survey questionnaire with closed-ended questions, organize lunch and learn meetings, develop a survey questionnaire with open-ended questions, or hold workshops. Are there any of those that we can eliminate?
A to eliminate, I would say.
Okay. You think we can eliminate A? Why should we eliminate this?
Close-ended questions.
Okay.
You'd want open-ended so that you could get a better understanding, not closed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So if choosing between A and C, yeah, I would eliminate 8.
Okay. So what do we think is the right answer according to the BABOK?
D?
You like B?
Yeah,
No, D is in
D,
David.
D is
workshop.
D.
Mhm.
yeah, I like D
Okay.
too.
Yeah, I like D too.
Let's test D. Workshops are interactive and would allow Greg to gain more information about a stakeholder groups. Additionally, workshops, even though the BABOK says workshops, I like workshops because that way they can hear each other. They start having common experiences. They build trust. It just makes the project always go better.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the
Mhm.
keyword there for me was interact, and I immediately thought you can't interact on surveys.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
they
true.
can't interact on surveys.
Okay. For any change, BAs need to create and foster trusting working relationships with stakeholders. How can we best do that? So, which task are we in?
And stakeholder engagement.
Same.
Yep, same one.
Same one. Okay, options for answers. Use organizational modeling to understand the relationships stakeholders have with one another. Learn which stakeholders have negative attitudes toward the change. Understand the influence structure and channels among the stakeholders, or identify levels of decision-making authority regarding the processes affected by the change. So we want to create and foster a trusting working relationship with them. Are there any of these we can eliminate? Would organizational modeling help them trust each other better?
So B, I would eliminate B.
Okay. Why do you think we should eliminate B?
Just negative attitude towards the change.
Well, it's
It
towards
kind of
each
seems
other.
opposite of
versus the
trusting
two.
working relationship, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So which one do we think is the right answer according to the BABOK?
I think A.
I'm leaning to A too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, let's test A. Okay, it
Oh,
says,
dang it.
all right. Organizational models are used to determine if organizational units or personnel have any unique needs and interests that should be considered, but we want them to foster a working
Yeah.
relationship amongst each other. The correct answer, according to the BABOK, is understand the
Let's
influence
see.
structures and channels among the stakeholders. Understanding the nature of influence and the influence structures and channels within the organization can help build stakeholder relationships and trust, as well as develop strategies for obtaining buy-in and collaboration. So those of you who did not get it correct, that is 3.2.4.1. If you can identify that you need to review that section.
3.2.
So it's chapter 3, the second task, which is plan stakeholder engagement, section 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's elements,
And then 1.
and then
Point
the
one.
first one.
Yep.
And it's going to be talking about the influence structures and channels. Got it?
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense.
Let's go on. Which of the following lists contain valid requirements attributes? So requirements attributes, there's a whole list of them. This is only going to give us a portion of them. Do y'all remember which section, which task it's in?
Requirements.
Oh, maybe A is correct.
Okay. Let's talk about
But-
task first.
Yeah.
Requirement attributes are listed in under which task?
I want to say that the first one.
Governance, this plan business analysis governance, no?
I think it's governance. Okay.
Plan business analyst information management.
Let's find out. Okay. Unambiguous, testable, complete, understandable. Author, source, class, complexity. Performance, interface, quality, glossary. Or priority, source, status, and urgency. What can we eliminate?
I can eliminate
C, for sure.
Why should we eliminate C?
Oh, I've never seen this quality glossary. I've never heard about that.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's something weird. And also source class complexity. I also this combination of words like no. I clearly remember this unambiguous, testable, complete.
Right. I was gonna say A is gonna be, I think, the correct one as well.
Let's
Mhm.
test it.
um,
Okay. Characteristics of well-defined requirements.
I'm not
Not
doing good.
attributes.
Okay.
It is in there. It is in there, but its characteristics are well-defined requirements. These are the attributes: priority, source,
Priority,
status,
source,
urgency.
Uh,
There's a mnemonic called Kara's Soups. If if your brains work with mnemonics, good for you, because Kara's Soups, it kind of tells you what all of those are if you remember it that way. My brain does not work with mnemonics. It's just something else for me to learn. But here are the attributes. It's complexity, absolute reference, risk, author, source, stability, ownership, urgency, priority, and status. Each one of those has their own definition, and you need
right.
to understand what those definitions are.
Hmm. Hmm.
If
I
I were a
never
flashcard
heard of
person,
that before.
if I made flashcards, I would make flashcards for the meanings of each of these and that they are part of the attributes for requirements.
Can I ask,
Requirement-
what is the difference here between priority and urgency?
You're going to have to look at the BABOK. Priority is going to tell you what order to do something. Urgency is going to give you the deadline.
Okay.
You know,
Sounds
for
good.
instance,
Yeah.
we have to do this first because we have dependencies in software, so we have to do this first, so it's prioritized higher. Urgency is the regulatory commission says we have to have this in place and functioning by this date. But I encourage you to pay some attention to that because I saw it on the test. Okay, let's move on. Oh, I'm sorry. That's 3.4.4.6. If you need to note that in your BABOK. Welcome, Stephen. Glad you got here.
Hi.
As a business analyst, you have just finished assessing the business analysis work and have prepared a performance improvement plan. In which of the following outputs will the details be captured? So this is assessing our work and prepared a plan. So which task is it?
Say A.
I'm sorry, let's start over here. Which task are we on? I have a list of the 5 tasks in this knowledge area.
I would say it's in the plan business analysis information management still.
It's a performance improvement
Oh,
plan.
no, it's the last one. Identify.
Oh, wait a
business
minute.
analysis
No,
per-
no, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, business analysis,
Yeah,
performance
identify.
improvements. There you go. Yep.
There we go. Let's do it that way. Maybe we can see a little bit better. That's too far. Okay. Okay, so possible answers. If it is identify business analysis performance improvement, and you know the output, because it says output, it can only be one of these answers. Business analysis performance assessment, business analysis performance strategy, planning and monitoring, or assessment measures. What is the output of this task?
It's the, I would
B.
say,
The strategy.
I would say A.
B.
I would agree with A.
I would say A
I
as
would
well.
say B.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
going
I've
with
got
A
A's
too.
and
Strategy.
B's.
So C and D,
Let's-
I would eliminate. Yeah, but
Yeah, we can
what's the
eliminate
reason?
these two.
Yeah,
Okay,
the bottom
let's
two are not it.
test A.
Ah,
It is the business analysis performance assessment, which is the output of the identify business analysis performance improvements task. This output includes a comparison of the plan versus actual performance, root causes to the variance, proposed approaches to address issues, along with other findings to help understand the performance of the BA processes. And this is used as an input into everything as we go forward, even if it's unstated. The whole idea is continuous improvement. If we find that we didn't do something well here, we figure out how we can do it better and implement that as we move forward. Okay. You're the business analyst on an initiative. Which of the following would you consider when determining the optimal approach for conducting business analysis activities? So we're going to be determining the optimal approach for conducting business analysis activities, which is what task?
Plan business analysis approach.
Plan the approach.
Yep.
What are we going to do? Number of business areas affected, size of change, geographic and cultural considerations, or complexity and risk. What does the BABOK say is the right answer?
I'm gonna say
Complexity.
Between A and D.
complexity and risk.
Complexity and risk. D.
Okay, I hear several votes for D. Let's test it. This is the stated element in the plan business analysis approach task. The other three responses are factors that can impact complexity. So these are listed in there, but this is complexity and risk as the stated element.
there are others.
Do you remember the spreadsheet I showed you? Let me open it. This is it. So if you go to here, plan business analysis approach, here are the elements. Complexity and risk is right here. I was showing this to my study group at work today, and I said, I had to look at this and go, oh, look, there are 5 different tasks in business analysis, planning, and monitoring. And in those tasks, task number 1 has 1 input. Task number 2 has 2 inputs. It's not consistent after this. Task number 3 has the 2 previous inputs in it. Task number 4 has the 3 previous inputs into it. And then task number 5 has the first and performance objectives external, which like totally changes the pattern, but it's like, oh, well, it's special. So this is how I had to go through and memorize it. And I made them different colors and different fonts just so my brain could see things quickly. Okay, let's go back to list 1. And give you only that one knowledge area. Okay, so this is talking about which one of the following would you consider, and it's an element. It's one of the elements that's listed, so that's a key for us. Planning stakeholder engagement in normal circumstances is a task carried out by a business analyst. This task may be shared with which other project team member. So planning stakeholder engagement, we know which task it is already. And for this task, which other planning project team member might actually be doing this with you? The BABOK actually calls this out. Is it the project manager, the sponsor, the business subject matter expert, or your peers? What can we eliminate?
B.
B.
Yes.
Yeah,
We can eliminate peers.
B. Sponsor.
sponsor.
Are we eliminating it or choosing it?
Eliminating, I think.
Okay.
So I would keep A.
Yeah,
So you think A is the answer? Okay, let's test it.
Mhm.
The PM and BA are most likely to share identification and management of stakeholders, and so the is a likely collaborator for this task. If any of you didn't get that right, that is 3.2.7. This is going to be chapter 3, second task. This is going to be your stakeholder list, and their roles and responsibilities are going to be listed there as well. Okay, moving on. XYZ is a new organization that uses agile methodology. The organization is looking
Can
for.
we go back one?
Yes, I can.
All right. PM
Happy to work with you, Bob.
sponsor. All right. So, like question one, I think all the options were actually listed. In this case, two are listed off that list. The first two, C is close, but they changed a word so it doesn't match what's in the
Right.
BABA. D's
Yep.
not in there at all. So
That's right.
you have to like know the material and also figure out from context what is the best answer. So it's a little tricky. Thea studied all this stuff in way more detail than I did. I literally did not read the BABOK when I passed this. I had other ways of figuring out what was going on. But I really wonder how I passed the exam because I keep learning so many interesting things. So I'm going to appreciate this book more and more, but the more you know the structure of these sections, the better off you'll be. And the questions have like 2 or 3 different levels of complexity you have to wade through.
Yep.
If someone has that section open, 3.2.7, can you read to us what the sponsor's role in this task is?
It says may request that specific stakeholders be involved in the business analysis activities.
Right. So they can say, oh, don't forget this person, but they are not the team that does identification and management of stakeholders. These two
Right.
are collaborating on it. Okay.
See, I mean, they may say that. I'm gonna call this one goofy.
Is it because it doesn't agree with your real life experience, Bob?
Well, it's not just that. It's really being a little too tweaky, I think. And that's a
Okay.
hard thing to communicate what I mean by that. But those of you who don't know me, every now and then I'll characterize some of these watermark questions, which are a great tool, as being a little goofy. However, I believe the answers on the exam will all be a little more straightforward. I always thought the quality of the questions and answers was a little better than these. But to get through these, you really have to know a ton of material and apply an extra layer of judgment. So it's a great workout for your knowledge.
Yep. I've said the watermark questions are harder than the actual test, but this gets you to understand the concepts. Okay, let's move forward. XYZ is a new organization that uses agile methodology. The organization is looking for an easy way to share business analysis information. The stakeholders decide on a whiteboard. Is this a viable option according to the BABOK? No, the information shared on whiteboards can be too easily altered or erased, so it's too risky. Yes, a whiteboard is a viable information management tool. Yes, stakeholders involved in the project are in the best position to determine how to share business analysis information. Or no, information management tools must enable the reuse of business analysis information. Can we eliminate any of these answers?
We can eliminate A because I chose that last time because whiteboards drive me crazy and I got it wrong.
Yes, we do remember we had this once before.
Did, and I believe it is,
B?
yeah, I
It was
think it was B. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it is a viable information management tool.
Yep. According to the BABOK, each organization uses some tools to store, retrieve, and share business analysis information. These information management tools may be as simple as a whiteboard or as complex as a global wiki.
What does it say C is wrong?
Let's see what it says about C. The answer is a close second, as other guidelines and tools may come into play. The more correct answer is that the information management tools may be as simple as a whiteboard or as complex as a global wiki.
Mhm.
Okay, now we know. We will not get that answer wrong again, though. So getting it wrong, a little bit of
That's
trauma kind of helps you
goofy.
learn it.
Yeah, Michelle will forever have it burned in her memory.
You will know. You will know. Very good. Okay,
Yeah,
Adam. Yes, Stephen.
I'm not able to see your screen that you're sharing, and if I hit
You
something by
cannot see my screen?
yeah,
Can
and if
everyone else see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
see your
Okay.
screen.
Yeah, we
We
can.
had I tell you what, do you see at the top of your screen, Stephen, do you see a thing that says Thea screen or something like that? Like a little label up there?
no. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I see it. Yeah. So click
Okay.
on that.
Yeah, click on that.
Okay,
Now
thank
can you
you.
see it? Ah, wonderful. The only reason I knew that that was a possibility is someone had the same problem in the last meeting. And it's like, we can all see the screen. Why can't you see the screen? So here we go. All right. Next question, number 8. And thank you, Stephen, for speaking up. It would have been very, very sad if you had just been quiet and patient and not been able to see the screen the entire time. Okay. Adam has been asked to step in and help with an initiative that's helping some problems. He has found that decision makers lack important information needed for decision making. It is not clear how requirements and designs are integrated with other information for long-term use, and stakeholders do not understand what's expected of them or what they can expect from the business analyst. Worse still, it is very difficult to measure and assess how well the business analysis work is being done. What would be the root cause of these problems? It looks like somebody did not follow the BABOK. I'm going to not ask about task right now because it looks like to me this is a whole bunch of different tasks. Do y'all agree?
Yes.
Okay, let's go on to the answers. The initiative has no subject matter expert, and most of the team members are new. Key planning and monitoring tasks that produce key guidelines for other tasks were not carried out. It is likely that the business analyst on the initiative lacks certification in business analysis as a professional, or the initiative is using adaptive approaches that focuses on rapid delivery with a higher degree of uncertainty. In the BABOK, it actually says if you don't do this, this can be a potential reason that these things can happen, and it kind of outlines this. Can you
I
help me
would
figure
have,
out which one it is?
I would say it was
B.
B.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
B.
got B as well.
B is in boy, D is in dog. I'm seeing both answers.
B as in boy,
B
Why
is
do we
in
like B most?
because it's the planning and monitoring of tasks.
Planning, yeah.
Yeah, and it says
bonding.
that it's not clear how the requirements and designs are integrated with the other information for long-term use, and stakeholders do not understand what's expected of them.
Okay. Let's test B. And that is correct. I like your logic. Your logic is awesome. The business analyst planning and monitoring knowledge area includes tasks that would have solved these described issues. So it's here's
A
the
whole bunch of
definition
them,
of the
yeah.
whole knowledge area. Number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. So all of these things could have been eliminated. And think about the frustration and consternation and regret that the stakeholders are having. You know, it's like we're in this project and we don't know what's going on. We don't know how to do, we don't know who's supposed to do what. It's our job as business analysts to use these tasks to help people know where the map is, what's on the map, and where they are, where they need to go. Good job. Okay. I like the names that they put in here because I can't pronounce most of them, so I'm just punting, okay? This is Sharon has been engaged as a business analyst in an IT transformation project. While discussing the stakeholder analysis and engagement approach with the project manager, they have informed Sharon that since the vendor of the project has a fixed price model, the vendor team will be reluctant to do extra work if there's any scope creep during the execution of this project. As a business analyst, what should Sharon do immediately as an immediate next step? So here's the situation. We know the vendor is using a fixed price model. We have to have no scope creep. Okay. What task are we on as we're talking about the approach?
That's gonna be I would,
Plan
I would
stakeholder.
say that I would say it's still gonna be the business analysis approach.
I think you're right. Okay, so we have a situation here. What should the business analyst do? Plan to elicit scope and requirements early to avoid any scope creep. Understand the vendor's pricing model and note that any scope creep of the project will be a risk and must be managed as such. Have a discussion with the sponsor about the vendor's pricing model and the potential scope creep risk, or suggest that the project manager review the vendor's pricing model and ask the vendor to change their pricing model to avoid the risk of scope creep. How many of
Yeah,
you
that's
have
not gonna happen.
Now, contracts are like, you can't just ask them to change. We already
Yes.
signed the contract, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Eliminate.
Yeah.
Eliminate that
Yeah.
one.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I'm
I'll
between
with
B and
B.
C.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna be B or C. I would,
Okay. So would they document a potential risk, or would they go talk to the sponsor about the risk first? Which one would they do first?
We'll probably
B.
talk to the sponsor first.
Okay, let's test it.
yeah,
It's a good
They would
approach to
document.
talk to the sponsor about potential risk of the project, but the first step would be to identify the risk to the initiative resulting from stakeholders' attitudes or the inability of key stakeholders to participate in the initiative, then talk to the sponsor.
Yeah.
So the correct answer, risk analysis and management, is used to identify risk to the initiative resulting from stakeholder attitudes or the inability of key stakeholders to participate in the initiative. In this case, the inability of the vendor to do extra work due to scope creep. This was something that was a surprise to me. I've always identified risk as potential things that could happen, and how would I know that the risk was about to happen? And I mean, here's my first indicator that we're hitting this risk. And the contingency plan, if the risk is 50% or more likely to happen, here's what we would do. I would treat it like it was really had happened, okay? According to the BABOK, a risk is something that has not happened. If it's something that has happened, it's an issue, not a risk. And there's questions in here that's going to say, here's this thing that was on the risk log. What should we do with it? Because it just happened. You put it on the issue log. So there's two different logs, issues and risks, and you work each of them as this is happening. This is potentially going to happen, but hasn't happened yet. Okay.
And
Yes.
just for the record, I'm gonna classify that one as not goofing.
Thank you.
Understanding the risk comes before talking to anybody about it. That actually makes sense.
That actually makes sense. Here's something, I don't know if y'all do this. Sometimes as I'm documenting something and figuring out how to craft the words so that it makes it clear to the biggest audience, I find that I understand it more. Or I've realized I need to ask this question. Here's a thing that I don't know. So I make myself better and understand it more by doing the documentation process. And that way, if I've done the documentation before I go talk to the sponsor or the vice president or whoever else, I'm a lot smarter about it rather than going and saying, I heard about this and I haven't really thought about it much. It's like, oh no, I know exactly what I'm talking about because I did the work. Okay, Piper is a business analyst for an initiative. The organization is undergoing restructuring and introducing changes to the existing business analysis approach. She has been asked to assess each proposed change. The result of her assessment must support the decision-making and change control approaches defined by which of the following tasks. So, what's she doing? She's been asked to assess each proposed change. So what is she doing here?
That's going to be a part of that governance, the business analysis governance.
Okay.
Maybe, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, because this decision making also. So
Yeah.
Okay. So that possible answers: approve changes, plan business analysis governance, assess requirements changes, or business analysis performance assessment. So if you think it's governance, would it be plan business analysis governance?
Yeah, I would have to say it's
yeah,
going to be B.
Okay, let's test it. The governance process identifies the decision makers, the process, and information required to make decisions. That's where it gets it must support the decision making and change control approaches. Okay.
That's the only one that's actually a task.
The rest of these aren't even task names, are they, guys?
Right. No, they're not.
Okay. Next. The results of stakeholder analysis should be consulted and updated on a regular basis as stakeholders may change or new stakeholders may be identified throughout the project. However, one task should be completed before embarking on this task. Which task should be completed first? So the task we're talking about is a stakeholder analysis. That is going to be this one right here. So what task should we do before we do stakeholder analysis?
The plan business analysis approach.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, D.
So is it the business case? Needs must be defined, project charter, or plan business analysis approach? We chose this one.
D.
Yes. As I said, this is an input into this one. Now, the BABOK says several times, you don't have to do these things in order, but it creates inputs. It creates the official input list as to give you structure as to what you need to be able to do this job well. It doesn't mean that you can't do the job without all of this. as long as you have a piece of it you can start with. So is the project
Oh, sorry.
charter within D is what I'm being asked on the chat. Project charter is something that's created at the beginning of the project. Typically not something that the business analyst creates. It's something that's created with, here's the project for you to do. And it comes with the project manager saying, you've been assigned to my project.
Big part of the PMBOK, or what's left of the PMBOK after they got it in.
Okay, so what Bob's talking about is the previous version of the PMBOK was 450 pages or something like that of structure
Big.
very, very similar to what we have. They've recently done an update on it and made it's like 2/3 of its previous size and a whole bunch of it is like fluffy agile stuff.
Yeah.
China says they chopping it up. China has her
threw
PMP as well.
away a lot of the good specific information and basically said, do agile.
Yeah.
And it's
And
stupid.
so if you don't know, one of the basic definitions of agile is do what is best for your team, regardless of if it's what anybody else is doing. And that doesn't always work. If your team needs to be producing a certain kind of deliverable that's the same as everybody else's deliverables, you need to be producing that deliverable, even if it's not what your team wants to do. So there's some give and take in agile. I personally think it's great if you've got mature people that are on your project, but that doesn't always happen. Okay, Grant has just completed
Biggest
defining.
thing about agile also, sorry, is just talking to each other. That's really 90% of it.
Mhm.
If you, yeah.
Agile is a way to help you communicate. Okay, Grant has completed defining a governance process when a stakeholder who had been declining meeting invitations to define the process voiced some concerns to the sponsor regarding the team's decisions. The raised concerns have resulted in more issues and stakeholders cannot come to a consensus. What consideration would help to resolve this deadlock? So we're working on defining governance processes. So I'm going to say we are in business plan, business analysis governance. And the elements that we're talking about are plan for approvals, plan prioritization approach, change control process, or decision making.
Let's do
Now,
B.
in the governance process, there's a sentence that says, what happens whenever there's a tiebreaker or needs a tiebreaker?
I don't remember.
Decision-making process defines what happens
Decision-making,
when
yeah.
reach a consensus.
Let's test it. The decision-making process, when used in the planned business analysis governance task, defines what happens when teams cannot reach consensus by defining escalation paths and key stakeholders who hold decision-making authority. I didn't realize that we had this power to say, hey, product owner, if there's a tie that we need a tiebreaker, you're going to be responsible for that. Are you cool with that? Great. And then a month later, whenever you need it, you can say, we have a tiebreaker in our governance document. That's our product owner. They get to make this decision. Whatever they decide is what we're going to do. Your conversation can stop right there. You kind of got to do it nicely and, let people know that this is what we have in place. These are our guardrails, but if you don't, your team spins. Okay. Before any business analysis performance changes are implemented, who should be consulted to assess how they might impact the initiative? So we're in change management. Which task is that?
That's going to be in your governance.
Okay. And so we're talking about the stakeholders in plan business analysis governance. Who should be consulted to assess how changes might impact the initiative? Would it be the domain subject matter experts, the implementation subject matter experts, the project manager, or the sponsor? Only one of them has the role and responsibility to do this.
Hmm.
So in this case, it's going to be 3.4.7.
I want to say A.
You like domain subject matter expert? Why do you
Maybe.
like? I agree with you, but I want to know why you like it.
Well, generally, if it's going to be changes,
Mhm.
usually it's going to be the subject matter experts. So the thing is they've got two of them on there. They got a domain one and an implementation one. Implementation means that it's, you know, it's already been, you know, put into practice or, you know, place.
Is it official
So-
term, implementation subject matter experts? I'm not sure.
There is such a role as
Mhm.
implementation
Ah.
subject matter expert, but Robin, it doesn't mean that it's already in place. It means
Right.
that, for instance, they are the ones who take the code and implement it into the big
Ah.
wide,
Mhm.
data lake or the web or the API or
Right.
whatever. They're the ones who actually make the change.
Right. So it would be that I would say that would be the domain subject matter experts because they're going
So it's a prior stage. That's why we first talk to domain subject matter expert, and after implementation comes.
Okay,
That's
so
my
the
logic.
other ones.
Yeah.
let me give you a scenario. I am the domain subject matter expert and owner of a database that all of customer service uses. I know what fields are required. I know what fields feed into other things. I know how, all the moving pieces work. And a project manager has come to me and they say, we want to eliminate these fields. And in my brain, I'm thinking, you can't. We have 15 things that rely on that. It's going to break these reports.
Right.
It's not, the domain subject matter expert is the one who has to be consulted about changes to what they're the expert about,
Right.
If you
right.
don't, you shoot yourself in the foot because
Yeah.
they have the information and it's their baby. You
Right.
have to talk.
Project managers and sponsors don't always know all the intricate
Right.
details of the
Right.
Right.
process.
The
So
domain subject matter experts are down in the weeds in that product. They know things that nobody else knows, and they're the gatekeepers for that thing. I would say that stepping outside of this topic a little bit, every single system, every single report, every single table in your organization needs to have an owner, and they need to be the domain subject matter expert, and changes cannot be made to that thing without their sign off. Okay. Moving forward. Oh, did I check answer? Let's check it. Oh my goodness. You're man chicken, I'm right.
Oh,
now
See that
after
one
we went
coming.
through that whole thing.
Egg on my face. Okay. Domain subject matter experts would be informed in order to elicit their feedback regarding possible improvements, but they're not consulted to assess impact. Oh, on the project.
Impact on the project.
On the project, guys. That's what I messed
Impact
up.
on the initiative. Okay. Yep.
So the project manager is the one saying, if you make this change, it's going to delay us and we're not going to hit our goals. We're talking about the initiative, not the system. I was focused on the system.
So
The project
initiative is
manager is
another word for
accountable for the
project.
success of the project and must be consulted before changes are implemented to assess the impact of those changes on the project.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, when you see the word initiative, that's relating to a project.
Yes, the initiative is the project.
Thank you.
The
So in
initiative
the
is the
yeah.
change.
In the book, it says that the domain subject matter expert should be informed, but
Mhm.
the project manager is accountable for
So
the
they're
success of the
informed.
project.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Had I read this, I know I said all the words. It's how they might impact the initiative. So
Yeah.
yes, the project manager. I can see you laughing at me, Kasi. I know.
And Thea is the queen of racing.
I love the racy diagram, guys. I love it because I've added some columns that remove all the ambiguity and no, there's no question. And it creates accountability. So whenever everyone leaves the meeting, everyone knows what you agreed to. And so nobody has to come back and say, you're supposed to do this. It's like everybody knows you're going to go do it because you know everybody knows. I've fixed it. Okay. Let's read this one better than the last one. How's that? Each of the following guidelines and tools is used for improved assessment of stakeholder impact and the development of the more effective stakeholder engagement strategies. So, improved assessment of stakeholder impact and development of more effective stakeholder engagement strategies. So, what task are we on?
Plan stakeholder engagement.
Yeah, that one's a pretty obvious one.
Okay, we're talking about improved. Okay.
Towards
Is
assessment.
it change strategy, methodologies and frameworks, business analysis, performance assessment, or business policies? Are we still sure that it's engagement?
Maybe it's not because it's an approved assessment. Okay, impact.
I think we are in performance improvements.
Performance improvement.
Yeah.
We're doing improvement here. We're doing more effective here. And if we are in performance improvements, then it's going to be the business analysis performance assessment.
Performance assessment. Yeah.
Let's test it. And I'm wrong. I'm going to stop answering for y'all. This assessment provides results of previous assessments and should be reviewed and incorporated into the business analysis approach, not stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder engagement strategies. Change strategy, an organizational readiness assessment, includes the impact analysis which results in change strategy. So 3.2.5 and 3.1.5.
Dang.
It
I thought it
was.
was C too, but you were definitely
3
very convincing.
Yes. you were.
3.2.5 actually lists both of those items verbatim. So you have to know to choose
that's
a
true.
from
Which one?
context.
Yeah. Well, but the change strategy is used for improved assessment. The other one is provides results of previous assessments. So that's why because of it's the improved assessment, that's why it was change strategy. Got it.
Okay. You're a business analyst in an initiative during which an analysis of the business analysis performance has just been completed. Which of the following actions would you take depending on the analysis results? So we've just finished this one.
Okay.
Following actions, depending on this. So they want the categories. Are the categories preventative, corrective, or improvement? Avoid, transfer, mitigate, accept, or preventative, corrective, or leverage?
A.
Say it
A.
again.
A. Preventative, corrective, or improvement.
Okay. These are the three actions a BA can choose from, which will likely result in change to the BA approach, processes, and tools. Very good. Everybody get that easily? Very, very good. Click C. I've been asked through the chat. These are some of the possible approaches for dealing with risk. You recognize these, but they're not talking about this question. These are for risk.
Same for B, actually.
And again, possible approaches for dealing with risk.
Yeah.
And then D is who knows one. Kind of random.
Leverage is a manufactured response. Improvements is the correct third option. But leverage is not in there. This was added to see if we were going to go for it. we didn't go for it. Okay. Which of the following approaches is most likely to require formal requirements documentation? So if we're talking about documentation, which task is that?
Plan business
Information
analysis.
Predictive. A.
Okay, but which task is it?
Plan business analysis.
Approach, plan business.
Information
analysis approach.
management, no?
I thought it would be information management as well.
Okay, it's one of these two. Let's find out. Require formal documentation?
Predict,
Was that
yeah.
Predict.
okay? Let's test it.
Oh.
Okay, it is approach.
Approach.
It's one. Predictive approaches typically call for formal documentation, and so that's planned business analysis approach. I can
Tia,
see
would
why.
we-
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. You've mentioned that adaptive and agile kind of mean the same thing. Would there ever be something like, let's just say it was one of those answers where it'd be confusing in that sense?
Well, I've not seen a situation where if the answer were adaptive or agile and it would give us both.
Mhm.
For instance, in this case, it would be waterfall or predictive,
Waterfall, yeah.
and it only
Yeah.
gave us one option.
Right.
So
Yeah. So they
For the
wouldn't
most
ever
part,
put like predictive and waterfall,
I don't think
but I
so.
guess choosing
I've
predictive.
never
would be
seen that.
Okay.
I've
Just
only
curious.
been through these a few times, 100 times.
Let me make two comments. One is
Okay.
that almost all the predictive versus adaptive questions should be almost slam dunks. And two, adaptive is usually associated with agile and predictive with waterfall, but it's not hard and fast. For example, you may have a pretty good idea of what the overall framework needs to be, and which would be kind of predictive, the requirements and so on. But then the way you build this stuff out, you kind of feel your way through it by consensus, and that is an agile/hybrid approach. So those kind of questions, again, predictive versus adaptive, should be super simple. That said, the idea that Thea's kind of encouraging you to begin at the beginning will make you really understand the structure better.
Thank you, Bob. I'll pay you later. Okay, I've got D or A going with D in the chat.
B.
Why is it important for a business analyst to understand roles or responsibility of the stakeholders within the organization? So which task?
Plan business analysis approach.
Is that roles and responsibilities of stakeholders?
Maybe C, to categorize stakeholders, power interest group.
Okay,
Thinking stakeholder engagement.
I've got A, C, and D. I need a tiebreaker.
I'd say D.
You like D,
D
Aaron?
is in David.
D is in
Yeah,
David. Okay, we're
I
going to
would
test
say.
D. Understanding roles and responsibilities of stakeholders will help the BA understand how stakeholders will contribute to the initiative. So let's talk about this for a second. I had this in my earlier study group. If I am a vice president and I'm coming into this project as the product owner, knowing that I'm going to be the product owner lets you know what my role is in this project. It's what are my responsibilities going to be according to the list you have in .7 of every single task. The product owner's responsibility in this task is X, Y, and Z. So if you know I'm the product owner, you know what my role and responsibility is. If I'm coming in as a tester, you know what my roles and responsibilities is. That's what it's really asking you here. How will that stakeholder contribute to the initiative? Got it? Okay.
Thea, could you check D?
I can. While this could be true, it is not the reason cited in the BABOK.
Oh, I
It's
see.
click C then for me.
3.2.4.1. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
It's
Our
a
interest rate is not
fairly
mentioned
long
in the BABOK.
section.
Yeah, it
No.
is.
Okay. Oh, one more thing while I'm talking about it. I've told you several times about splitting it up into several different sections. Another reason that I realized I hadn't said to you, my watermark book, it seemed like it was only made to be read like 3 times and pages started coming out. And it's like, whenever I took it to get this done, I had like 6 pages that were kind of shoved in there. So another reason, because I did use it a lot. I think it's a good thing. Okay. What would a BA typically do first while conducting the Identify Business Analysis Performance Improvements task? So Identify Business Analysis Performance Improvement, it's asking what you should do first. It's either going to be talking about your inputs or your elements. So define what constitutes effective business analysis work, determine assessment measures, conduct interviews and workshops to determine stakeholder requirements, or identify corrective and or preventative actions to improve BA performance. What can we eliminate?
C.
Yeah,
Why
you
can
should
we
already
eliminate
have,
C?
you should have already had, that would have been done with the stakeholder engagement, wouldn't it? See?
No.
No?
So we are not going to be doing any elicitation in this whole knowledge area. I mean, you
Okay.
can talk to stakeholders to see what their roles are, but you're not going to be getting stakeholder requirements yet. Stakeholder
Okay.
requirements is all the next knowledge area. So we're going to eliminate this because it doesn't apply to this task. What else can
Okay.
we eliminate?
D.
Why can we eliminate D?
Uh, because I think it should happen later.
I agree. There are things that you have to do before you get to corrective or preventative actions. So what do we think the best choice is according to the BABOK?
Looks like A.
A. Yeah.
I would say A.
Okay, let's test A. This is the first element within the task. Consult organizational performance standards if available to understand expectations for BA work the organization may have already defined. So what constitutes effective business analysis work? If your organization has this defined, you're golden. I mean, you know what the guardrails are. If you walk into a company and they've never had a business analyst, your boss has no clue how to rate you or how to evaluate you, you have a bigger field to plow. You have to figure out what it takes to get there. So if your organization has the standards already in place, you have a place to start. You might need to update your organization standards, just saying. If you find that they can be made better, propose it. Which of the following is not a component of the risk analysis and management technique? So risk analysis management technique, where are we at? What task is that? There's only one place we do this.
I will go for business analysis approach.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about it. Not a component. So that means 3 of these are the correct answer and 1 of these is not the correct answer. And I hate these questions because I got them mixed up in my head. So I make a big deal out of it. Ease of detectability of risk. Impact of risk. Likelihood of occurrence. Risk response plan. Which of these 3 are true?
A, B, C, true. D, maybe later.
Impact. Yep. And
Okay.
likelihood of
So,
occurrence.
yeah.
Likelihood of impact.
So ease of detectability of risk. How easy is it to detect that it is happening is not one of our things. Let's talk
Right.
about likelihood of occurrence. This is also called probability. And so whenever you have your risk register and you say, here is something we're concerned about happening, and you talk to your team and you say, how likely is this? How possible is this? Or what's the probability of this happening? If it is 10%, you're probably going to say, okay, if it happens, what's going to happen to us? I mean, is it going to be a regulatory thing, or what's going to be the impact? If they say 80%, you're going to say, okay, how do we know it's happened? What are we going to do? What's our response going to be? Who's going to need to do what? You go into a whole lot more detail in your planning for your risk register if it has a high likelihood of occurrence or a high probability. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, quick question
Okay.
here. Is there any tips or like, advice you can share on how to easily differentiate like a task from a technique?
You mean in the questions here?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can use that as an example, but I tend to kind of confuse the task a little bit with the technique sometimes because sometimes it's not like a hardcore like brainstorming or whatever
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Let me give you some examples here. Every one of these tasks in these different knowledge areas are they're going to have elements, and that's very similar to techniques, I understand, but they have a goal. Now, your technique, it has a goal, but it has a goal for just to have the goal. This one has a goal so that it can accomplish something and move into another task.
Oh, okay. Okay.
For instance, identify business analysis performance improvements. Its goal is to give you that analysis so that you can use it in the other places. Technique is almost like what's that word?
Like a
It's
script?
ambiguous. It doesn't care what it's about. These care what they're about. These care when you do it, what the inputs are, what the outputs are. They're actually much more complicated than a technique typically is. Does that help, Kasi?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Thank you.
I understand your confusion because I've had the same thing. I
The
had to
other thing, if I can jump in, is risk always has three things. And those three things are, impact, how often it may happen and what you do about it if it does, and what your plan for heading it off. So those three things, if you can keep those in your mind, that'll help you answer a lot of questions. And that's true in project management and whatever. Just as an aside, FMEA, which is a really fascinating technique, is a Six Sigma thing, but good to know about, but not super important to help you pass the test.
It will help you pass the test. It's not in the BABOK. It is in Six Sigma. I've had people say that they were going to study for PMI and Six Sigma and this at the same time, and I'm like, your head's going to explode. There's no way around it. Okay. Akira is closely managing particular stakeholders who can impose their own requirements for how business analysis information should be managed during the governance process. So we're in the governance process. So we're in planned business analysis governance. Which stakeholders are they? So which stakeholders can impose their own requirements on how the BA information should be managed? Is it the sponsors, project managers, the regulators, or the domain subject matter experts?
I rethink A,
Why do you like A, Kasi?
because I consider the sponsor like the ultimate stakeholder, and they can actually bring on the table their own requirement for any kind of project.
I like your logic. Do we have any other ideas? A second vote?
I'm between sponsors and regulator.
Regulators, maybe.
Yeah, I was leaning towards regulators.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
go with regulators. We've got more votes. Okay, sponsors have the
Sponsors.
authority to impose their own requirements. That's in the rule, 3.3.7. Regulators, this is a close second as regulators may impose rules or regulations that need to be considered when determining the business analysis governance plan. These rules or regulations would act as constraints.
It's also true that the sponsor needs to incorporate anything the regulators provide. So regulators would be a subset.
It could be. So it is a close second, but in the definition in point 7 of this one, it talks about the role of the sponsor, and it will have this probably as a quote.
Yeah,
Yep.
it actually does. It says the sponsor can impose their own requirements for how business analysis information should be managed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's in the governance task, correct?
Yes, governance task.
So
Yes.
3.3.7. That's where we're
Yep.
at. Okay. Okay, which of the following statements best describes an adaptive planning approach? So adaptive means that we're talking about this task here,
Mhm.
which most business analysis work occurs at the beginning of the project or during one specific project phase. Formal documentation is produced before the solution is developed and implemented. Adaptive approaches do not require documentation. Our adaptive approaches focus on rapid delivery of business value in short iterations. What can we eliminate?
C.
Well-
C, I would eliminate C.
C and B.
Just don't require the documentation at all. I don't know.
Okay.
Hold on, it's produced before the solution is developed and implemented.
Let's check
B.
B.
B, it's waterfall. Yeah, it's for B eliminate.
The-
B, eliminate.
Yeah.
Yep, because it's a
Okay.
formal.
So we
Yeah.
can eliminate those two.
Uh-huh.
So what's the right answer?
D.
D.
I say D.
Mhm.
Okay, I think I'm hearing B and D, but let's check D.
Mhm.
The business prioritized functionality they would like the team to develop first. Value is delivered in predictable intervals. It's whenever it talks about predictable intervals here, it's typically talking about a sprint, you know,
Yep.
a 2-week sprint, something like that. Let's look at
And
A.
that should be pretty close to a slam dunk for you. The
Yeah.
test is long and hard. Whenever you get a slam dunk, take advantage of it if you
Yeah.
need to.
Celebrate all your wins.
Yep.
In which artifact would the proposed approaches to address issues be found? So approaches to address issues. We're talking about an artifact. What task are we in?
Identify business analysis performance improvement.
Improvements.
You think that one? Okay. Business analysis performance assessment. Is that what I'm hearing? Let's test it.
Okay.
The BA performance assessment not only includes results, variances, and root causes, it also documents proposed approaches to effectively address performance issues. Very good.
Good question. Any synonym of artifact? That you
I'm sorry, say it again, Kasi.
yeah. Do you have please do you have any synonyms for artifact?
Oh, yes, a document. Anything that you produce is going to be an artifact or a document.
Okay.
It might be called a deliverable.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Okay, which of the following is included within the business analysis approach? So we know what task we're on. Is it corrective and preventative actions, methodologies and frameworks, workshops, the timing and sequence of the business analysis work? Can we eliminate anything?
Workshops, can't we?
Okay, I've got A being eliminated in chat, workshops being eliminated. So what do we think the right answer is according to the BABOK?
Methodologies and frameworks.
Do I have a second vote?
Like B.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
B.
Okay.
Oh, goodness, B. Dang it. Should have went
These are
with my
listed as
first.
guidelines and tools to the planned business analysis approach task. This is one of the primary components of the business analysis approach task is the timing and sequence. When it says it's included, it's usually talking about an element, not a guideline and tool. And I've had students that they had a lot of trouble going, what's the difference between guidelines and tools and elements? Elements are things that you do that they change. Guidelines and tools contribute, but they don't necessarily change. Okay. Regarding the element stakeholder communication needs, the business analyst must consider the blank of stakeholders. So we are in the element stakeholder communication needs. What task is that?
Communication.
Stakeholder engagement.
Stakeholder engagement. The business analyst must consider the blank of stakeholders. Is it their primary language, multiple location distribution, geographic location, or elemental attitude?
I would say
Can we
A.
eliminate any?
Yeah, A, I would eliminate.
Okay. You think we should eliminate primary language if we're talking about their communication needs?
No, I was thinking A was probably the answer,
The
but
answer.
I'm leaning towards C, actually.
C, yeah.
Okay, let's test C.
Ooh.
It is.
Information will be communicated differently for stakeholders who are geographically dispersed rather than physically co-located. That is what the BABOK says. This is not listed as a consideration in the BABOK.
No.
So you were right. This is the correct answer. Geographic location is really important as you're thinking about how am I going to communicate to, say you're a BA that has been identified as the BA on the project to design the upgrade on the displays for washing machines across Malaysia. And your stakeholders are going to be the Malaysian salespeople, the managers who run the stores, and the people that do repairs on the washing machines across Malaysia. You're not going to have a workshop with them unless it's virtual. You might need to send out a survey to them to get information. You might be able to do some interviews, but their schedules, that you're in a totally different time zone, getting their information, getting their input is going to be much harder because they are dispersed and far away from you.
Thea, could you also check B, please?
I'm happy to. This is not a BABOK term. Even though that looks like it should be a consideration, that word isn't in there.
I can give you another example on that. When
Oh, yes.
so when I was located in Europe and I had a call with American colleagues, and when Americans said this inches, Fahrenheit, or whatever, for me it was like Chinese. So hey people, what you're talking about? So yeah, they should, or yeah, time zone, they like New York time, it's okay, but I'm in Europe, I don't care New York time. So yeah, you really should understand who you are talking to and considering maybe their language and their metrics. if you
Yeah.
want that they hear and understand you.
Yes, it's very, very true. I will give y'all something that I use all the time now after we finish this. Okay, you've been hired as a BA.
Also, power to English units. I've had to
Huge.
work with engineering customers in both. And I love barley corns per fortnight, BTUs, horsepower, or whatever. I love it all.
There's a famous story, and I honestly don't know if it's true, but about two teams of engineers that were building a bridge that were supposed to meet in the middle. One team was using metric and the other team was using standard. It didn't meet in the middle. It was
Right.
a challenge. Okay. You've been hired as a BA on a 2-year project. Information is gathered through the team interaction and feedback with rapid delivery of business value in short iterations.
Yep.
What approach
Yep.
are you using?
D, adaptive.
There's our key, rapid delivery of business value in short iterations. Adaptive approaches
Adaptive.
utilize short iterations and deliver value at the end of each. The emphasis is also on team interaction and feedback. Okay.
Yeah.
We have hit 25. Submit exam. 68%. And probably because I was leading you astray, and I'm so sorry about that. So you've marked down the things that you were having trouble with, right?
Yep.
So you know what you need to improve on. We have 9 minutes. I'm going to share this with you. World Time Buddy. I am able to talk to people. Let's say I don't need Buenos Aires. I need London and I need India. You have to spell it properly. I need Mumbai. So I can look at this and they say, I can talk to you at 8:30 tonight, and that's 11 o'clock a.m. my time, Eastern. Or I could be more considerate. I could say I could talk to you at 8 o'clock my time, which is 5 o'clock, 5:30 their time. So I literally do this thing and then I do this thing and I send this to them and say, this is my proposal. You also can set the date. You know, if you're talking about something in the future, like 3 days from now, you can set the date and make it very clear what you're talking about so that you can drop this into the chat and they know that you're both on the same page. Giving them a picture it makes it very clear. One thing I didn't know is I know about daylight savings time. I know that we move forward and backward a hour. Do you know that there are countries and states and cities? Phoenix does not move back and forth. They are obstinate. They just don't move back and forth. There are places that they move back 30 minutes instead of an hour. They move at a different time of the year, all kinds of stuff. So I use this. I don't try to keep it in my brain because I don't have enough room up there. So you are welcome to use World Time Buddy. It's free. I do time zone buddy. I type in anything in Google and I can get this back up and use it to, I don't care where you live. I can figure out what time we can work together.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Atia, are we going to go through the same questions next week?
We are not going to go through the same questions. However, we are going to go through the same chapter. So it'll be a whole brand new set of questions. Hopefully, we won't have any repeats. Occasionally, we do have a repeat. That just means that y'all are going to be better on that answer. But we're going to go through chapter 3 again next week, so you have a chance to get deeper into it. I do want to remind you of this, though. I've said this to you a few times. Oh, before I forget, those of you who joined late, please put your full name, not your middle name, your full name in the chat so that I can take attendance that way. Several of you joined later and I don't want to miss you. Okay, so underlying competencies. I don't have the one.
It's in there.
So on the spreadsheet that I sent to y'all, the one that starts with 0000, do you remember that one? It's in the email.
Yep.
It looks very much like this one. Okay. there's a tab right here beside list 1 that's like task to techniques or techniques to tasks. Let me ask you to
I think
find that,
it's
and I will find it myself and open it up. The sent.
oops. It is technique to tasks, I think.
Okay, very good. Let me ask you to be patient with me for just a second. CBAP materials. So in the folder, in the Google folder that I sent to you all, and if any of you didn't get this, let me know. You go down here to the bottom and it's 0000 BABOK task with criteria. And then let it open technique to task. This is very important. As you study chapter 3, also study these techniques. I think I've said this to you. In case I didn't, I'm going to say it again and again. Study these techniques with 3.1, study these techniques with 3.2, reviews with 3.3. As you study the techniques, and I'm talking read in the back of the BABOK. Read all those words because there's going to be a sentence in there that it's going to ask you a question. Which technique do you do this with? It's in there, okay? Study the technique and imagine doing the technique with the purpose of this task, because it's going to embed the technique much more thoroughly than just studying the technique on its own. So these are the techniques that I identified for chapter 3. Now I'm going to say these are not all the techniques for these tasks. These are the ones that I feel are most likely to be used with these tasks. Study the whole list of techniques for each task, but go deeply into these. Yes, Bob.
I believe also in that trove of files is a spreadsheet I made back when I was prepping for my exam in 2017, I think. And the reason I did that, it was a cross-reference of all the techniques versus, I think, those very same sections. And actually, when I went through it, I found that the cross-reference in the BABOK actually had a couple of errors in it. So I sent it to him and they list those as errata.
Is this it, Bob?
It may be.
Okay. So Bob is the originator of this one. I didn't know who it was. So
If
I went
it
through
has
and
a fairly old date on it, it's mine.
okay. So let's go to this. Okay, so this is what I went through and I said, okay, brainstorming is used for these tasks in all these knowledge areas. Which one would be the one I would use it in most? That's how I came up with my list that I presented to you in the tasks to techniques tab that's right over here. That's in the other one that I had open. Oh, no, this one. Techniques to task. That's how I got this list right here. So as we go through chapter 3, look at these for chapter 3 and know, got the same thing for chapter 4. There's not as many tasks that have techniques identified, but as you can imagine, conduct elicitation, there's a whole lot of techniques there because we use different techniques for elicitation. You know, it's like, let's do mind mapping, let's do interviewing, let's do data modeling, let's do surveys and questionnaires. This is where I would use it. So I put it here for you. Okay. So if you feel like you have a decent handle on chapter 3, go ahead and start reading chapter 4. You know, start getting that in your head because we're going to be switching over to chapter 4. Yes. Okay, I thought I heard somebody say something. Okay. Uh, do I have any questions before we end? I want to let every one of you know that we're marching along this road together, and it's a little sweaty and it's a little hot. We have a kind of heavy load to carry. We can carry each other's load for a while, but eventually you got to be able to carry it yourself. So I want you to get your muscles conditioned. I want you to put yourself through the rigors so that you're strong enough, because the test is a 3.5 hour long test. It's got 120 questions, I think, in it. And a lot of those are going to be essay questions. And we're going to work on more and more of that as we move forward. The more you put into this, the more you get out of it. And the more you get into the confidence of, I know the answer. And then my ramblings won't mislead you. And you can call me on it. I thought I was right about that. But you know what? I'm not perfect either. So let's be imperfect together. Let's get better together. Identify where you have gaps and make yourself better. And I will see y'all here next Thursday. If you need to contact me, LinkedIn is the fastest way to get to me. If you just want to send me an email, send it to the president, but I might not see it for 2 days. I don't keep track of that quite as much as I do LinkedIn. Okay. Bob says he's going to miss next week. If any of the rest of you are going to be missing, let me know. That way I really do worry. It's like, I hope everything's okay. I hope they're not sick. Just let me know that you're going to be out. I'm okay with it. You're
Okay.
allowed to have a life. I give you permission. Okay, guys, y'all have a very good week. I hope everything goes wonderfully for you. Remember, every morning, decide the day is going to be good and then look for the good. Because if you let the day decide, they make bad decisions. Okay? I'll see y'all later.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good night,
Bye.
everybody.
Good night.